Junction.
Morning.
Woo! Good. How many of you went back to Sunday school years in the singing of that song, This Little Light of Mine? Yeah. How many of us have got a really big candle, and how many of us have got just a little night light? We've all got the opportunity to shine. Oh, wonderful. Thank you, Karen. Yeah. So as I look at the screen this morning, I'm actually looking at a lot of table lamps and a lot of salt cellars, because the reading this morning comes from Matthew chapter 5, part of the Sermon on the Mount. And if you were a politician in Jesus' day, you would probably have listened to the Sermon on the Mount and thought, yes, this is Jesus' manifesto for the new kingdom. Wouldn't that be good? Matthew 5, 6, 7, round about there. Fantastic. The kingdom is coming. God's will is going to be done. Given that the present is built on the future, on the past, let's not get it the wrong way around. The present is built on the past. A quick memory test. How many of you can remember Gordon's questions from last week? How many hands are going to go? Hey, good. Well done, Gordon. I'm glad you can remember them. Yeah. Now, what was the third one? Just a quick reminder. The third one was, what ideas have you got? What ideas can you come up with? So this morning is following on with that, thinking outside the box. Some of us like to think outside the box. And some of us have got a box which is empty, which I'm told is the man's box. The empty box, because we don't generally think about things the way ladies do. Doesn't mean we don't think, it's just that we don't do it the same way. So last week, Gordon was asking us for ideas. Last week at St. Peter's, Phil was speaking about the feeding of the 5,000. And as I was listening, he didn't major on this, but the thought came to me, when the disciples said to Jesus, there's such a crowd here, we'll have to send them away to get their tea, or words to that effect. And Jesus said, you give them something to eat. What? You give them something to eat. And they said, well, we've only got 5 loaves and 2 fish, and there are a lot of people here. So that's not going to work. Well, they probably didn't say that, but that was the idea. And Jesus said, bring it to me. So in terms of the kingdom, we might not think that we've got very much. We might have a light, and we might have a little bit of salt. But Jesus says, bring it to me, and I'll do something with it. So let's read from Matthew chapter 5, verses 13 to 16. Now, we all know that Jesus is the light of the world. And in the old days, the answer in Sunday school was always Jesus. You remember that? Jesus is the light of the world. Listen to this. You are the salt of the earth. But if the salt loses its saltiness, how can it be made salty again? It's no longer good for anything except to be thrown out and walked on. You are the light of the world. A city on a hill cannot be hidden. Neither do people light a lamp and put it under a bucket. Instead, they put it on a stand, and it gives light to everyone in the house. In the same way, let your light shine before men, that they may see your good deeds and praise your Father in heaven. Now, it doesn't say this in Matthew, but it wouldn't be difficult to think that there's a little bracket after that which says, except during COVID-19 days. It doesn't say that, because whatever the situation is, if we are the light and we are the salt, then are we going to be under the bucket to keep safe, or are we going to be visible. Being visible on Zoom and on WhatsApp is one thing. Being visible in these days might take some ingenuity and some imagination, some creative thinking to see how can we still be salt and light in these days. And that is, frankly, one of our big problems at the moment. It has to do with church buildings. It has to do with recognizing that church is not the place, it's the people. So here we are looking at each other, salt cellars, table lamps. If you woke up this morning wondering who you were, hopefully part of our worship was, what was that, Steve? If you were wondering who you were when you woke up this morning, one of our worship songs gave us lots of ideas. I am a child of God. I am chosen. I'm forgiven. Wonderful truths there. And then we come to the other side of the coin, which is we are the salt of the earth and we are the light of the world. Some of you who like reading books can get this off the second-hand bookshelf somewhere, Out of the Salt Shaker, written by a lady many years ago. And she's making the point that salt, which can do so many good things, it can be used in healing. If you're down at the beach and you cut your foot, you go out into the sea and you let the salt water do some work on it. You can put the salt on your roast potatoes or wherever else you like to put your salt, and you do it purposefully. It doesn't just happen, because salt will stay in the salt cellar until somebody picks it up and gives it a shake. It works on ice as well. Putting salt on ice breaks down the hardness. Salt is so useful. It also preserves. Think of yourself as a preservative in the community. That's an interesting thought, isn't it? Someone fairly recently suggested that we should be drinking Dettol and such. Preserving is not the same. Out of the salt shaker, out from under the bucket, it demands contact. And most of us, in fact, all of us do have contacts. We have contacts through the telephone. We have contacts coming to the front door. We have contacts with the bin men, who I usually take a purposeful effort to actually thank them for what they're doing when they come round. I don't get right close to them because it's a bit smelly, but I do say thank you for what you're doing. And there are opportunities to make contact. So the volume might have made us fearful, but we are secure and COVID secure, but free to change the world. How does that make you feel? Woo! Come on, thumbs up. Oh, that's good. Secure, but free to change the world. Chosen to make a difference. So we're going into breakout groups fairly soon, but I'd like to give you a little thing that you might think is corny, but a model of how to be salt when you're in touch with somebody you might not have spoken to them before ever. So salt, S-A-L-T. S, say something. When I'm walking the dog, I usually determine to speak to whoever's going by, whether they've got a dog or not. So say something, which could be as simple as hello. And you will soon get the impression whether the other engage or not by what comes next. If they don't say anything or they say get lost, then I usually take that as a clue that they're not wanting to get involved in a conversation. That's not difficult. So say something. And if that goes all right, ask a question. How are you today? Could be. And then see what comes back. So listen to the response, S-A-L. And then T, see if you can turn the conversation into something a bit more deep. You might start with the weather, but if there's time and there's opportunity, you might have the opportunity to turn the conversation. So SALT. And then if you wanted to get further, you can add ing on the end to make it a present continuous, salt, and then introduce Jesus at some point, or introduce your relationship with Jesus. Notice their response. And at every stage in this whole process, there's the opportunity for the other person to back off. And we have to take note of how they're responding. So notice their response and then go a bit deeper, or even give them a phone number or an email address and keep the contact going. So SALTING. You are the salt of the earth. You are the light of the world. Let's go, folks. Thumbs up. Let's make some positive choices this week. I'll hand back to Gordon.
Thanks, Alan, for that good practical stuff there.